After having my past Salmon Run gameplay get absolutely roasted, it made me realize that there's a lot to learn with this mode. So I decided to discuss with my channel members what tips and tricks they think people must know for Salmon Run. Hopefully these tips can help out and get us all playing our best in this mode. Just before we start, I wanted to say that some of these tips you might already know, but everyone has a different experience with Splatoon, so I'm trying to cover as many bases here as I can. In at number 1, we have the This Way button. This button is here for a reason. It's to let your teammates know which direction you're currently at. It's a great way to let your teammates know where a cluster of bosses is, or maybe a bunch of eggs that they need to pick up. Unfortunately, it does feel like people tend to underutilize this feature. They'll go off somewhere else on the map and we won't even know where they are. They added this functionality for a reason, so definitely use this as much as you can. Of course, keep in mind you don't want to send all of your teammates to their death. Just be aware that if you see a teammate using this functionality, you should definitely check out what's going on if you can. Number 2, bombs. If your teammate is down and you can't really get past a cluster of bosses to save them, then use your bombs. This is a great way to revive your fallen teammates. Sometimes people will jump into a cluster of enemies and then boom, they're also splatted themselves, which sometimes can cause a total crew wipe. So unless it's more efficient just to revive them using your weapon to save that ink, make sure you use your bombs. Keeping your distance like this sometimes can be really helpful. Number 3, make your fallen teammates a priority. Now there's lots of caveats to this, but generally if you see a teammate down, it's a good idea to revive them, especially if they have an egg and need to ferry it to the basket. After all, you don't want to be the last crew member alive and then suddenly there's a crew wipe. Now, a caveat for example would be if, say, you have an egg and there's a tiny bit of time left and you need to ferry that to the basket to make a goal, then maybe prioritize stuff like that. But don't let your teammates be dead the whole match like some people do, as this definitely will cause you a lot of problems. After all, you really need the whole team alive to get the best experience you can. Like I said earlier, this is especially true if they're holding an egg, because they can't do anything with that at all if they're dead. If you're really focused on something else, then like I said, use your bombs to revive them. That's a great way to do it remotely without you having to go right up to their location. I do get that it can be frustrating sometimes if someone is just dying again and again, but you'll find it's a lot worse if you leave them that way. Number 4, make killing the flyfish and the stinger a priority. These two backline bosses can cause such a huge problem for people, and I imagine they account to so many of the crew wipes. Of course, the flyfish can send those deadly bombs which fill up an area, and the stinger has that laser beam which will completely knock you out. Killing these guys should definitely be one of your top priorities. If you let them build up and more keep spawning in, then you're going to have a really tough time. Of course, if you simply don't have the time to do so, like I mentioned earlier, maybe you need to get eggs in the basket and such, then of course it's understandable. But generally, I do think you should make these guys a priority. Getting rid of them is really important. Thankfully, the stinger is really easy to kill. You can do this with basically any weapon that you can obtain. However, the flyfish, of course, you need to get those bombs in, which can be a little bit annoying sometimes, but it's definitely necessary to do. Thankfully though, we have our next tip. For number 5, you may be surprised how many of your specials can actually kill the bosses. You don't always have to use the traditional methods for knocking these bosses out, as your specials are just that powerful. For example, if you want to kill the flyfish using your specials, the crab tank and the inkjet need to shoot the baskets. Booyah bomb and ink strikes need to hit the pilot, and for ink strikes specifically, you need 2 small strikes to actually kill the pilot. It's the same with the killer whale, it also needs to hit the pilot. Maybe don't waste your specials on just one flyfish, but if they're causing you so much problems and you just can't get those bombs in time and everything seems to be running out of time, then maybe it's a good idea to use these specials to knock them out. And speaking of specials, in at number 6, use your specials. Don't just save them until the last minute. I can't count how many times it's been the end of a match and people just spam their specials when we really could have used that help before. Don't stockpile these or save them up. Use them, they're there for a reason. Specials can be really good for preventing crew wipes and such, or knocking out a whole bunch of bosses and enemies at once. Now, I know what you're gonna say, you should definitely save a special for the King Salmonid, and that's true. However, it is worth mentioning that you will get a special regardless for the King Salmonid wave. We also have the fact that the King Salmonid isn't going to happen every time. You can see in the lobby when it is due to in the top right corner, so keep an eye on that, and if you know there's not going to be a King Salmonid, then I definitely think it's worth it to use up your specials, don't save them. Aside from the King Salmonid thing I mentioned, which of course you can only really stockpile 2 for anyways with the extra one that you'll get regardless, there's absolutely no benefit to saving your specials, and I'm sure this has caused a lot of problems. In at number 7 we have a boss specific tip, and this seems to be one that I feel like a lot of people honestly don't realize. I get it because it is a brand new boss, but still, I thought I should point this one out. A lot of people don't seem to know what to do when they see a slamming lid. Should they just wait for it to drop to the ground? Well, actually, you can bait it out. All you need to do is stand underneath it really quickly and then dash away and it'll come down. From that point onwards, you can jump on top of it and kill it. Waiting around for this thing to somehow do something honestly isn't worth it at all. You should definitely bait it. In fact, 2 people could do this, where one person jumps underneath and quickly dashes away, and then another person jumps on top to finish it off. This isn't one of the hardest bosses to kill in the game, honestly, but I feel like this is something that a lot of people have missed. In at number 8, try to lure bosses as close to the basket as you possibly can, especially ones like Moors. Having your golden eggs spread all throughout the map can be really inconvenient, and it makes things so difficult. Certain bosses will stay far away, but others will follow you wherever you go, just like Moors does, so this is a great opportunity to bring them right up to the basket and get those eggs straight in. You'll save a lot of time and you'll be covering your base. In at number 9, don't go off to some far corner of the map by yourself. Try and keep as close to the basket as you can, of course within reason and keeping in mind the backline bosses that I mentioned earlier, and don't go alone if you can help it. Too many players seem to go on a one-person mission to the furthest reaches of the map, where they'll often end up getting killed by a swarm of enemies and no one is really around to help them. Teamwork is key in Salmon Run, and whilst often you will need to do your own thing if you want to keep progress up, it's good to stay close. When a boss dies, of course it drops 3 eggs and you're just one person, so if it's right at the furthest reaches at the map and no one else is around, who is even going to get those eggs? In at number 10 we have a very simple trick, but I feel like a lot of people have missed this one. At the very start of a wave, you can actually see if it's going to be high tide, normal tide, or low tide, and this is incredibly useful. A lot of people tend to end up jumping into the water accidentally when it's low tide, or they stay up top when it's high tide and they need to be down at the bottom. So keep this simple indicator in mind, I think you'll find it really helpful. But let me know in the comment section down below, what are your tips and tricks for Salmon Run? I definitely think there are a lot of opportunities to get better at this mode, and I've definitely been trying my hardest this time around too. If you made to the end of the video, be sure to comment Splat Gang down below. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and turn on those channel notifications for more Splatoon content.